is one thing stronger than all the armies in the world put together, and that is an idea whose time has come. Idea perhaps is the most dangerous and most powerful of all the weapons. Hello and a very warm welcome viewers. You're watching this special presentation of Sansad TV on the journey of startups. India has the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. And if you're an aspiring entrepreneur or even otherwise, this is your destination as we script the novel success stories of unicorns, mid and small level startups, analyze the roadblocks and give wings to your dreams of becoming a job giver and not being a job seeker. So today, let's hear the story of drone startup Botlab and its founder, Sarita Ahlawat. Thousands of Made in India drones grace the evening sky in the national capital as part of the meeting retreat ceremony held at Vijay Chowk to commemorate 75 years of India's independence. The drones form different formations to narrate the glorious history of India's freedom struggle. With this, India has become the fourth country in the world to have indigenously developed such a technology. It was this moment when the Indian startup success story once again took the world by storm. Wish to meet the startup that mesmerized everyone with drone light show at meeting retreat ceremony? Well, the 10-minute drone light show was conceived, designed and produced by Botlab Dynamics, a startup incubated by IIT Delhi, which is now being run by IIT graduates Tanmay, Bhunkar and Anuj Kumar Barnwal, and also scientist Dr. Sarita Ahlawat. Botlab Dynamics has built technology that allows many drones to fly simultaneously and autonomously in interesting spatial and temporal formations. The technology is built from scratch by Botlab.
So it started long back ago when I was in first year. So Tanmay was my roommate during my first year during engineering college in Delhi. So I saw him building things from scratch rather than buying components, like buying the complete thing. He used to buy components and build it in his room, which was my room as well in the first year. So I got inspired from him in the first year, and then we decided in the third year he was very sure that he will make something here in India, for India. But we used to make fun of him while he was building things and crashing stuff. Like he was flying, let's say, from second floor. He used to fall to the ground floor and we used to laugh at him. But in the third year, I realized that what he's doing is the way to go ahead, and I decided to join him once we graduate. So we started this in 2016, and our main idea was to make everything here in India.
In early 2012, Tanmay Bhunkar took his first UAV flight, and by 2014, he and his team were asked to deliver 8 drones that would join the Delhi police. This reaffirmed the faith in drone technology and its future in India. In 2016, Botlab Dynamics was incorporated at the Technology Business Incubator Unit at IIT Delhi. In the same year, Botlab Dynamics sold heavy lift systems to Indian Agriculture Research Institute. Later, they were also given financial assistance by Department of Science and Technology. Botlab Dynamics also got selected by Army Design Bureau to demo the heavy lift drone in Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh. The team has developed a full stack of solutions for drone light shows. Building a complete system is hard, and making several copies with identical performance is even harder. But the founders and the team members of Botlab live by one mantra: you never change your life until you step out of your comfort zone. Change begins at the end of your comfort zone. Sarita ji, welcome to Sansad TV and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Alright, so before I talk about your startup, your journey, tell me how was the experience of flying 1,000 drones during the meeting retreat ceremony?
So I would say it was an incredible experience, once in a life opportunity that struck to us, and we are very grateful for this opportunity to the Ministry of Defence, and they showed so much confidence in a startup because you would expect an international company which is well established to pull something like that. So it started almost 6 months back when we had put one of their videos online, and it caught the attention of Ministry of Defence, and they asked that can we scale this up to 1000, and at that time, believe it or not, we only had 50 systems. And so we took the challenge. Being at IIT, we are good at one thing, is just taking challenges. So we took up the challenge, made the plans, and built the hardware, software that is all needed for the entire show within just 6 months. And so it was a lot of fun and challenging at the same time. So once we were ready to practice at Rashtrapati Bhavan, the one challenge we didn't think of was you are allowed to put the drones only after the president leaves. And so we had less than an hour to put all the drones, and when he comes back, the drones have to be taken out. So we had to really train ourselves by seconds and minutes, and with more and more practice, we could get better at it. But it was really a lot of fun. So when he leaves, and then we put drones and then take them out when he comes back.
But that was a fantastic show. And now talking about your startup. So you're a scientist, you were in the US for 12 years. You came back to India and joined Anuj and Tanmay for Botlab, this startup. Tell me about the journey.
The journey has been a lot of fun, and anybody who's in startup, they would say that it's hard, but at the same time challenging and a lot of fun, and you experience things which grow you a lot. So after coming back, I used to run and practice for half marathon, Delhi Airtel. And in that, I found my co-founders, Tanmay and Anuj. They were also practicing at that time, and we became, for 3-4 months, we were just running and became friends. And at that time, while running, these conversations led me to literally change my career path. So if you're from India and in a hardware domain, you'll realize there is literally, the ecosystem is very limited. So we do not make very many things. For example, computers, cell phone, any electronics, a lot of are not Indian companies, and because we do not have the required ecosystem, so drone being a hardware part of it, we struggled a lot because the lot of components have to be imported, and then that's what kind of motivated me to join their journey, because I felt that I could probably contribute and make a small difference in this domain.
So Sarita ji, how did the three of you think of this business model?
So earlier, actually, when you are a tech startup, the entire focus is usually on building the technology. And so at that time, operating on drones was very difficult. So I'm talking back in 2016. So the challenge was, if you're building drones, you cannot build drones for commercial use because they were illegal. So any drone that is weighs more than certain size, if you're even found with it, it will be put in jail. So of course, we thought our normal customer would be defense and police and paramilitary. So this is why we first 2 years kept our focus on building technology for defense-based applications, surveillance and other applications. And then after struggling 2 years, because defense is a very hard domain for a startup to crack, we had also gone to Pokhran to demonstrate our technology. And we were among the early groups who have shown that if you connect multiple drones, you can have a more efficient system. So anything that a single drone can do, multiple drones can do better. And this kind of platform is called drone swarm technology. So 2018, we had shifted our focus from operating from a single drone to multiple drones and have them talk to each other on a single platform. And with that application, we try to convince Indian Armed Forces, Air Force, military, and then ask them if they can help us develop any application. And in last 3 years, actually, defense forces have come along a long way, and they are kind of directing what applications can come out of it. But in 2019, we were struggling for funds, and we had to develop a business model where we can become commercially viable. And that has been the hardest part for any startup to crack. So what we realized is that we had to kind of think of a parallel domain where we can commercialize this. So that's why the idea, because we were already building a platform where number of drones are connected. So what we thought is, if we miniaturize the drones and we put a light, and we can actually do something for entertainment industry. And back in 2019, by December, we had done a small show for IIT Delhi, Dussehra festival, and that show became hugely popular, and online it went viral. And then we started miniaturizing the system, and we thought we will build the technology for drone light shows, because we know how drones work, so why not build a technology that can also be used in entertainment. And mind it, please do not confuse with with the application. The technology is very deep. It might look like lights are coming together and used in entertainment. The technology behind is very, very deep. So when the idea clicked to us that you can use drones for entertainment, and at that time India had just very few drone shows have happened, done by a Chinese company and a Russian company, and they were charging a bomb. I mean, the typical charge they would take is like 2 to 4 crores. So then we thought, if we provide this service back, I mean, in India, it could be cheaper and be more accessible to more Indians. And that's how the model clicked to us, and we calculated how much money it will take to build the fleet, and we started building the fleet. And with first 4 drones, which were performing really well, so we convinced Department of Science and Technology to take a challenge. I mean, take in chance and invest in us, and they invested. So our first investment came from Department of Science and Technology, and they took us to the next level, and which took us to the beating retreat.
All right, Sarita ji, we'll just talk about the investment part of it in just a bit. But before that, as you said, being commercially viable, that is a very difficult part, but finding market is all the more difficult. So how did market validation come through for you?
So before I address the market validation, I would just want to add one point, that finding investment for any hardware-based technology still is a challenge in India. A lot of commercial entities are not as interested, because the lag phase is long for hardware-based technologies, and growth comes much later, and returns are in proportion to software-based solutions are less, but long-term hardware does return. So now coming back to market validation, so when we had pitched this idea, and so starting from last year, when our drones were flying in hundreds and we were able to achieve international level of performance, so a lot of time we were approached by several commercial big entities to do a show for them. And I think that's the biggest market validation, when your customer comes to you and they want show. And now our phone doesn't stop. We constantly keep getting inquiries for shows across India.
I just hope your phone never stops ringing, but we also spoke to your team members. Let's listen in what they have to say.
आपका FC या कोई भी GPS की PCB डिज़ाइन करना, उसको फिर ये चीज़ होती है कि वो चल रही है कि नहीं, उसको पॉपुलेट करना, एंड देन पॉपुलेशन के बाद भी लाइक उसको चेक करना कि वेदर इट इज़ वर्किंग और नॉट. अगर वो ठीक चल रही है देन हम उसको आगे प्रोसीड करते हैं, लाइक असेंबली हमारी स्टार्ट हो जाती है. फिर असेंबली में भी काफ़ी सारे चैलेंजेस होते हैं, लाइक हाउ टू डिज़ाइन अ ड्रोन. उसका डिज़ाइन कैसा होगा, उसका डिज़ाइन कैसा होना है, और कौन सा कंपोनेंट कहाँ पे प्लेस होना है, ताकि हमारे ड्रोन्स में इंटरफेरेंस कम से कम आए और हमारे ड्रोन स्टेबली मतलब हवा में उड़े.
यहाँ पर स्टार्टअप में बेसिकली चीज़ें काफ़ी ज़्यादा और इंडस्ट्री से डिफरेंट रहती हैं. आपको कोई स्पेसिफिक टास्क जो असाइन नहीं हुई होती, आपको काम अपने आप ही ढूंढना है, आपको उसमें टास्क अपने आप ही देखनी है, कैसे चैलेंजिंग टास्क को सॉल्व कर सकते हैं, आपको वो सब जो है अपने आप ही इसमें फिगर आउट करना होता है. तो ये सब चीज़ें जो और इंडस्ट्रीज़ होती हैं फिक्स, उससे काफ़ी ज़्यादा जो है मतलब क्या कहते हैं डिफरेंट होती हैं.
Alright, so you were talking about investment, DST, Ministry of Defence. How did you maneuver your way? Because this is very, very difficult.
So no matter who your investor is, the process is pretty much the same. They would want validation of concept and your approach to market. And so in that, we were able to convince them that and for us, when the drones fly, that's a validation of the technology. And when we showed that it can make revenue, and the revenues were more than what they were expecting, so I think that investment came along. Getting an investment is literally a journey, and you start with the proof of concept. So first we did is with little bit money, we showed our technology work, and in our case, drones flying in the sky is actually proof of concept. So we approached DST with 4 drones back in January last year, 2021, and we showed that, look, we have these drones which are now fully Indian. They're made in India, the flight controller, GPS, all the components, software, simulator is all made by us. And why don't we now scale this up. So with that, and usually even in a government panel, you have people from commercial, the industrial side, and they also ask several questions, and the focus is less on technology. Now they want to see how you will be able to market this idea. And to show our validation, we actually called several event management companies, and we asked them, if we build this, if we build, let's say, fleet of 200 drones, would you take a show from us? And answer in every case was yes, because importing drones was complicated, lot more expensive, and communicating with foreign partners was very difficult for them because language is not the same, be it Russian or Chinese. So they really welcomed our idea, and as a concept validation, we actually called 200 companies, and we really got a positive response from all of them.
Actually, the story began with just 3 youngsters. One of them a girl from Haryana, the other one a boy from Bihar, the third one from Madhya Pradesh. They were all very small town youngsters. They had tremendous passion to beat the world record, in throwing up so many numbers of drones, because the world record is 5,000 held by China. The second one being Russia with 2,500, and this is the third one. So they had a lot of passion, they had a lot of talent. The one from Bihar actually was very good at preparing chips, etc. So we got them to stay in IIT, because at that time, and thanks again to Prime Minister Modi, that now the regulations have been changed. So there's a lot of liberalization in the development of in developing drones and using them. So that time it was not so. It was allowed in the IIT premises for research purpose. So they were provided a small accommodation in the IIT campus in Delhi, and we funded them on behalf of the Department of Science and Technology. Finally, we had to seek the approval of the Ministry of Defence to get it included as an item for the meeting, the retreat. And I am now told by media friends like you that this year it was the most watched beating the retreat ever.
Positive response then, but it mustn't have been easy. What were the roadblocks? What were the challenges?
So when it comes to challenges, when you build in India, I think my stories will never end. The challenges are numerous because of COVID. There has been shortage of components, and the supply chain across the world had broken down and still is actually not up and running. And so the chip that we were using ran out, and we had to actually change the chip, change our PCB circuits and work that out. And there was shortage of batteries and you name it. So, but with a lot of planning, we could overcome. And I just want to add a point here. You could do this. Once you know how to build things, you can move things around. And I think that's what is really needed in India, capability to build things and manage the crisis. So we have been, our startup has been incubated at IIT Delhi for more than 5 years. And I would say the journey has been difficult and challenging at the same time, and reason being the lack of resources, lack of ecosystem. If you want to build anything, you have to sometimes go abroad to get your PCBs made. And now fortunately the ecosystem is slowly building in India, and we still lot to do. But I would say for startups, the access to workshop is required, for prototyping facilities are required, and now it's slowly coming up, but more would be appreciated. So in hardware startup, other challenge which gets talked very little is the skill set. So India mein everybody wants their children to do software jobs, sit in a AC and code and get a very high pay job. But for hardware, you have to be in the field, test, and all these things require, and it doesn't pay as much. So for firmware engineer and hardware engineers are very less. Even from IIT, you will not find very many. So what we do first is 6 to 8 months, we train our engineers to be able to work on drones, and after that they become valuable to us. So that's a really huge challenge across the hardware industry. We do not have the desired skill set, and it really need to be taught retaught in engineering schools. The focus has to be on hardware.
All right, so let's talk about your growth prospects. What is the focus? What is the target?
So we are focusing on 2 verticals because drone swarm technology has application both in commercial and defense. Commercial, you've already seen, beating retreat is a very big example, and it turned out to be very popular. So we'll continue that and we'll expand the number of drones. So currently our fleet size is around 1100. We will like to scale this up to 5000, 7000 by next year. And the second vertical that we are addressing, which is much bigger market, is defense. So use drone swarm technology for defense applications. So you can actually have these drones to be very smart, and they can be slightly bigger and they can travel much longer for a longer time. And if you can make them kinetic drones, you can have them do surveillance, you can have them put ammunition on that. So a lot of applications in defense are possible. A lot of companies are addressing it, and the market is more than 10,000 crores. And you're not just limited to India when it comes to drone swarm technology, because this technology is not mature yet across the world. So once you perfect it, the entire world is your market.
Right, so I do hope that you mint a lot of those crores there. But what is your message to the budding entrepreneurs?
So I would say now in India, entrepreneurship is started to being respected, and I would really say India needs lot of young entrepreneurs, and we can really make a mark in technology domain if we stay on the course. And hardware startups are now coming along, and more young people joining will really make a huge difference.
All right, on that positive note, thank you so much for joining us, Sarita ji, and all the best for all your future endeavors.
Thank you.
All right, viewers, that's all we had for you in this edition. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Sansad TV. Namaskar.